Good evening and welcome to Irish Footy Vlogs. You probably noticed Keith isn't here today, so it's myself, Kane and joined by JP Fatty. How are you, pal?
Kate, cheers for having me on again.
No problem. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and you know your word, the way you talk, it's absolutely fantastic. So we love hearing it. So we'll get cracking. We only had 2 Premier Division games, and we only obviously had 4 First Division games. So it was just pretty small this week. So I didn't enjoy it. Did you?
No, not really. There wasn't much happening, really, was there? Well,
yeah.
Especially in the Premier Division.
I think it's an absolute shame. Like, and obviously with the virus and stuff, look, it can't be helped. But hopefully we finish out the season because I think it's very important.
Yeah. I think reading between the lines, I think that they're going to do what they can to get the league finished. Like, so hopefully
you see it getting delayed, and you see it getting pushed back a week, and you're kind of in the back of your mind, you're saying okay, but at the same time you're saying they're pushing it back for a reason, and it's a little bit worrying. But hopefully we see the end of it. But Friday in the Premier Division, Bohemians beat Cork City 3-0. Did you see the game yourself?
No, I didn't watch it. I just seen the goals. Just
yeah, I think it was inevitable, to be honest with you, after the week Cork had. What do you make on the whole Cork situation first before we go into the game?
Keith, the last time I was chatting to Keith, he actually predicted that Neil Fenn would be gone before the season would be finished. I kind of half disagreed with him, but I knew where he was coming from. But I think Keith mentioned that maybe would Cork get a new manager bounce, and I think we seen with the result of Friday night that the heart and soul's just ripped out of that club, like, really, isn't it? And there just doesn't seem to be any hope at all.
It's hard to believe only 2-3 years ago we used to go down to Cork and we used to be hoping to keep the score down. Never mind get out of it, and it's a shame to see. But Friday night, I think it was comprehensive from Bohs. I've seen the game myself now. Danny Grant, who I feel is Bohs' best asset and best player, in my opinion, bagged himself another goal. What a goal that was. And Andre Wright, another player who was really come out of a shell this year, Andre Wright, bagging 2 goals as well. I didn't, to be honest, when the first goal went in, I nearly pulled the curtains on the game myself. You can't see Cork scored, and never mind coming from behind to win, especially in Dalymount of all places. But you know, you have to really fear for Cork now, don't you?
You definitely do, and you touched on it there, but it's hard to believe it 3 years ago that they won the league. But I think that was the beginning of the downfall, really, because I think they won the league and they'd reached the summit, and they didn't know where to go from there, and the only way for them was down. When Dundalk won the league, the only way for them was up, and I just think it was winning the league is probably, you could pinpoint that.
Yeah, no, they're not the only side to do that. Sligo in 2012 won the league, and won the league by far. I know it went down to 3 games, but I remember it in 2012 because they actually won it against Pats in the showground. Oh, what a game that was! Touching on that, but I remember it. But I remember playing Sligo, and you remember watching them on M&S at the time, and you know the champions, don't you? They played like champions Sligo that year, and they didn't back her up. All of a sudden, a really good Pats team came in and done it. But the same thing again, they didn't back her up. I know we won the cup in 2014, but the cup was so special. The Pats fans, I've got pictures everywhere here. The cup final. I tell you, I've 4 pictures in my room of the cup final, right? And I've no pictures of us winning the league. The cup obviously meant a lot, but it's still a downgrade to the league. And I think Cork, I know Dundalk have really set the bar now in terms of pushing on and competing, and we see them in the Europa League and stuff like that. But I think a lot of teams don't know what the next step is. Obviously, they're hoping to retain the title, but it's very hard to bounce again, and it's very hard to go again. And like we've seen, like Derry have been at the top for a long time as well, and we've slowly, gradually seen them drop and drop. Obviously, I know they had the financial difficulties, and look, some would say they're doing well to be even in the Premier Division, still be a club at this stage. But it's fantastic to see them back, and I think the league needs a Cork City, needs a Derry, needs a Galway. In my opinion, I think they're the three. But I fear for Cork, I really do. I think I thought they might have got a bit of a bounce. I did, genuinely, but I fear for them here now.
It's not looking good for them in any sense of way. When you read things on social media that the support, I think the Cork City Forecast, their members have been told that they must accept a one point bid from a multi-millionaire. When you read things like that, you're just thinking, times are tough. And
you look at the start of the season there, and they had to sell the sell-on clauses for Maguire and
that was to get a license.
To get a license to play in the division. So, look, when you put all that together and you look at Neil Fenn as a whole, I think he actually done an all right job in terms of getting a side on the pitch, and getting, like, you know, the likes of Dylan McLeod, the likes of Dara O'Connor. I know he's gone now, but he's a player that I rate very highly. And, you know, he's not doing too bad. Like, if they win 2 games, all of a sudden it changes for them. But I can't see them winning 2 games. That's my issue.
I can't see them even picking up another point between now and the end of the season myself. Like, it's but I thought when they appointed Neil Fenn, they were getting a very good manager that gave them a pre-season and time to build. Who knows? This season has been a unique season. Maybe if he had a proper season in charge, would it have been different? You don't know.
You don't know, and it's hard for a manager to lose his job, especially in the League of Ireland when obviously COVID is here. But not only that, the league is a very short season as it is, even without COVID. And there's a long break, and we know that in the meantime, the people aren't getting paid 52 weeks of the year either. So it's hard when you see a manager who, let's say, wouldn't be on a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a shame. But, you know, on the other hand, you look at Bohs, they're flying. I think they're nailed on for second now. I think.
Secured it, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And they've secured Europe over the weekend as well, which was obviously the target for Bohs. So they've overachieved yet again. And, you know what, like, I don't know, but there's something about Bohs that, like Keith Long, there's something building there, and it's been building for a long, long time.
Yeah, you touched on the 52 weeks contracts there, and I think that was another part of Cork's downfalls. Was as soon as they won the league, they went the 52-week contract. I felt that if they had to give them another year at semi-professional, and maybe if they backed up their league title with another league title, then go 52 weeks. But they touch on Bohs. The key to Bohs being in the position that they are now is continuity in the management team. Keith Long's been there since 2012-2013. And very gradually he's built that team up. And you mentioned there about overachieving. In terms of the budget they have, yes, they've overachieved.
I know, that's it, exactly.
But I think Bohs deserve to be where they are because
without a doubt, they have been. I said it loads of times. Absolutely huge fan of Keith Long, huge fan of Trevor Crowley, and he grinds every last bit of every single player he signs. Let's be honest, Bohs for years, it's obviously had to change in the last year. They've kind of had more of a pick of things, but Bohs have really got the dead wood of everyone else, and they've got players that nobody else wanted. And the job Keith Long has done, and like we see him now, we're seeing pictures emerging of a meeting with Adam McDonald coming back, who used to play for Shelbourne. So he's meeting with him, and you know, Keith Long is a smart man, and I've tons of respect for them. I think it's disrespectful. I've said it loads of times. A lot of people say they're only a part-time team. On paper, they're a part-time team. They train like a full-time team. everything else is like a full time. I think it's a bit downgrading for the players to be called part-time professionals because they're not. And the work that's being put on there, look, they deserve to be second. And who knows? Like next year, could they pick Rovers? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell, but if they went close this year because we were in a half a season. It's can they go over 36 games is going to be the key question. And don't forget, Dundalk will probably come back just as strong next year as well. So you can't turn around and say no. I'm not going to turn around here and sit now and say no, Bows won't win the league next year, because you just have to look at Leicester a few years ago. They went and won the Premier League ahead of the big guns. Like, so it's always there if you build towards it. And they've got the European money coming in. They've got the Matt Doherty money coming in. The future's bright for Bows, I think.
Oh, 100%. And not only that, I think they have, and I've said it before, they have the best dressing room in the league, okay? I really do. I think they have the best group of players. They have the best managers. I think they have the best of everything. I don't mean in terms of facilities and all. I mean in terms of what they have and the coaches and the way they get the players to perform. And I think personally, me being a coach myself, I think that's worth an extra 6 points a season. That could be the difference.
And I always like to compare Derry City to Bows as because we're similar stature as in terms of budgets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The reason we can't do what Bows are doing is because we're going out every year and we're bringing in 10, 11, 12 players every single season. Where Bows, I think maybe did they add 3 or 4 from the team that qualified for Europe last year?
They only lost that league. That's all.
That's how you build a team. That's how you get there where you are. You build your way up. You build your way up through it. And I would just like to see Derry City over the next year or so put a plan in place, and some of the players that they have now, put them on 2, maybe 3-year contracts. I know they can't go 3-year contracts, but they can go 3-season contracts or 2-season contracts or whatever. But the key is to be coming into pre-season with the bulk of the squad that you had that got you in the position that you were in the following year. It's no good for a manager. I feel sorry for Declan Devine, because and even Kenny Shields before him, they were going into pre-season and they had 4 players they worked with on the first day of pre-season. And you have to give credit to Keith Long, because he's not on the biggest budget at Bows, but he's utilised it superbly to the point of where he's been able to get the players in that he wants. He's been able to keep them, and he's been able to add to them. And if you think back, he probably would never have got the chance at Bohemians if Athlone had never got promoted and Mick Cook had never left and he took over. And I'm not going to say he nearly saved them, but he got them playing good football. He got them to win a few matches as well. And Bohemians saw that, and they went and they pounced on him. And I think it's 7-8 years later, he's qualified for Europe back to back.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what they've done. But I think they're nailed on for second now, and who knows next season. Now, moving on now to Saturday, the only game again in the Premier Division. Shelbourne got a massive 1-0 win away to Waterford in the RSC. Did you see this game?
No, not again. I didn't. I'm going to admit that to watch League of Ireland, it's really only interested me as in terms of being able to watch Derry City. Sitting down and watching other games, I'll log in and maybe watch 5 or 10 minutes, or things like that. But I was following the result on Flashscore, and it was a surprise result for me. I thought Waterford would have won this game. I thought maybe I didn't think it was going to be a big scoring game, but I thought it was going to be a 1-0. But I thought it would have been to Waterford. So when I seen that Ryan Brennan had popped up with a winning goal, it was just a surprise that Shelbourne had won it. But reading the reports, it was fully deserved apparently. So credit to them.
No,
credit to them, because the week before, Derry and St Pat's had picked up points to pull away from the relegation zone, and that only left Shelbourne within touching distance. of the relegation playoff zone, and they knew that they needed one big one before the end of the season, and they got it down in Waterford.
Yeah, it was a massive win for them. I actually did pip them. If you listen to the other the preview show we done on Thursday, I actually pipped them to win a 1-0. I didn't fancy them, but I felt like they had to win. If you get me, it was that type of game. I think it's a massive win. It eases the pressure on Ian. I think Ian has been the manager. Ian Morris has been under a lot of pressure, which is unnecessary in my opinion. What he's done with that side and how he's built that team and how he's built them to be so competitive. Like, they're calling for his head when realistically, yeah, I know they're nearly falling down the back door as such, but realistically, you're 2 wins away from challenging for Europe, and it's a mad season. But that's the way it is. But I think the game, Waterford definitely had their chances. There's no question about it. In the game, I thought they were lively at parts. I thought before getting on late in the second half, they had a couple of chances that could have went in. Saying that Shells had a few chances as well that went amiss. But Ryan Brennan, I remember Ryan when he was playing for Pats, and I think he's a very underrated player. People look at him. People think because of his physique that he's a little bit overweight, he's this and that. He's not in the slightest. I think Ryan Brennan is a fantastic player, and he always, for some reason, he just always pops up with a few goals a season, but they're important goals.
That's since the restart, he's come up with 3 key goals. I think 2 of them have been winning goals, and the other was an equalising goal against Derry that earned him a point in Tolka Park. So, and I like Ryan Brennan. He gets his foot in. He reminds me a bit like Kieran Martin when he plays in midfield. Yeah. I was going to say Barry Malloy, but Barry Malloy would have put his foot in and broke up a play. But
yeah, Barry had kind of sit in front of the back 4.
Yeah, but Ryan's a bit like Kieran Martin, where he can put his foot in, win the ball, but he can also get into the box and put the ball in the back of the net as well. So, as you say, he's very underrated, and I'm just surprised that. I don't mean any disrespect to Shelburne here, but I'm just surprised that he's not playing in a team further up the league.
Yeah, so am I now. I'm surprised he didn't sign for Pats now at the time. But he signed back because he had a decent season with Pats. But another thing about Ryan Brennan, I don't know if you noticed, every time you watch him play, I think he's on the ground about 4 times, isn't he? But he's always on the ground. The medics are always around him. But what a win for Shelburne, and I think that's kind of secures the position. And I think that's a job well done for Ian Morris, especially in these tough times. Like what he's done there, I think he's done an amazing job. I know the hard work he puts in. I know the dedication he put in. And, you know, we have to realise people say they've got a few bob now, but at the same time, I don't think they have. They're still running on a small budget. A few bob now would be the same money as Derry and Bows are probably on. Bows got into Europe, but I mean, like the likes of a Derry, I would say the budgets would be in and around the same as that. But what a win! And look, I think Waterford are content enough. They'd be obviously disappointed to lose the game. They obviously wanted to win it and try and nail themselves off a third. I don't know if they're going to get it, but I could definitely see them finishing 4th.
Waterford seem to have turned the corner towards the end of John Sheridan's reign and the start of Franny Rocket's reign. Yeah. But they really disappointed me last week when I watched them in the Brandywell as well. Although Derry beat them with 2 penalties. I thought Derry was a better team. Derry passed it better. They moved it better. And I hadn't watched Waterford up there, but from what I was reading and what I was sort of what was looking like, it was that Waterford were in the mix, but they really disappointed. They were really disappointing for me when I seen them play against them.
No, and they're kind of like a mixed bag. You don't know what you're going to get. Some weeks they're fantastic. Some weeks they're average, or some weeks they're just atrocious.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what way you're going to show up. You're hoping, like, obviously against Pats they showed up and they played well, unfortunately. But you know what I mean? Then they went up to Derry like, look, I know probably forced penalty, never a penalty, but I think like obviously that changes the game and stuff. But I don't think they done themselves justice.
Peter Cherry didn't have to make a save that night.
No, I think when Derry went 1-0 up, I know, like I says, it was a terrible decision. Let's be honest. But I think when they went 1-0 up, I think that was it. And I just thought Derry were comfortable, and it was kind of like, right, get through the game now, no injuries. It was that type of game. But like, so that was, unfortunately, that was the only two games.
And they lost their discipline a wee bit as well after the second goal, because they picked up, I think, a few yellow cards as well towards the end of the game where they weren't, the passes wasn't coming off, the crosses was the final ball. So they lost their wee bit of discipline as well, and that could be key in the last couple of games if they are going to finish fourth. Is that not only are they going to have to pick up points, they're going to have to keep their discipline at the same time as well.
Yeah, and like everyone you can nearly speak for, they don't have a big squad at all. I don't think much of their, I would say 3 or 4 players are like off the bench, but I don't see them having the strongest squad. So if they lose, let's say, a member of the back four or even the keeper, as we've seen, they've not been doing too well. So that's obviously a big one. But that was the only 2 games, unfortunately, in the Premier Division the weekend. So we're going to pour onto the First Division now, and obviously UCD had a fantastic win against a tough Athlone side on Friday. Came from behind, they were 1-0 down, and they got it back. They were winning then 3-1, and they were winning 3-1, and then they scored. Athlone scored, made it 3-2. So it wasn't easy for UCD, and I think that shows the fight. Obviously, look, we know they probably don't have the best defending record. I think that speaks for anyone.
Ever.
But yeah, I don't think they have a great defensive record. In saying that, though, that was a big win for them, because they are banging them in the other end, and to come back from that and being like, I don't care what anyone says, there's a lot of pressure down there now to get promoted, and I think every game is a cup final, and to come from behind a win in Athlone, which we've seen over recent weeks, Athlone have been a tough place to go and a tough team to be. So, what do you make of that?
I thought it was an excellent one for UCD, because the week before Athlone, I think, was it Drogheda they beat, and Drogheda was top of the league going into that game, and UCD probably would have had that in the back of their mind, that if we're not on our game, they're going to punish us. And you have to give huge credit to UCD, because they went 1-0 down and their heads could have dropped, thinking, they've beaten Drogheda, they're going to beat us. But fair play to them, they stuck in there, they got themselves 3-1 up, they got themselves into a comfortable position. Athlone got themselves back into it, but UCD had to know how to go and get that 4th goal and practically kill the game off in the final stages of it. Like,
yeah, and then we had another one, which is fantastic win again. Cove Ramblers, I think it was predicted, but Cove Ramblers 4, Wexford 0. What do you make of this?
I thought it was straightforward, really. I thought Cove, the 3 games that was played on Friday night was the 3 results that I expected. I probably, if I was going to predict them before the game, I probably would have predicted high scoring games for the winning team. Wexford, they're bottom of the league. A couple of weeks before that, they went 1-6-1 against Cabinteely. But they 4-0 won against a team against Wexford. But they may be bottom of the league, but they're still in your league, and it was an excellent one for Cove, and it keeps them on the race for the playoffs.
Oh, 100%. I think it was a big one for them, because they had to win again. Like I says, it's not short for me to say, but every game, everyone needs to win at this stage. And, it was a big 4-0 win.
It was a massive one. As you says, we're getting to the point in the season now where each one is crucial. And we'll talk about them in a wee minute, but you've got to look at Bray. They took a huge advantage of Drogheda not playing, as did Longford. And that was the reason why Cove had a win as well, was to keep, because they knew that the teams above them was likely to win, and they want to keep in touch. And the fact that they're trying to keep Galway away, and Galway weren't playing, that they needed to get the points on the board. They have a wee bit of an advantage over Galway.
Speaking of big wins on Friday night, we had Cabinteely against Longford. Longford ran out convincing winners in this game. 3-0. What do you think?
Predicted it. Cabinteely, as I said, they're in wretched form since the restart. They lost 6-1 to Wexford. And Longford blew the opportunity the week before, didn't they? They get a good result on the board after teams above them had lost. So with Drogheda not playing, they knew that they had another opportunity, and they knew with UCD playing Athlone that they were probably going to have to win this game, and they made no mistake with it. They went out and they won 3-0, and it was probably the players were probably out to show the manager as well that the Galway result was a freak result, 2-0 up, losing 6-2. That not only was it a massive one in terms of the scoreboard, it was a massive one in terms of their season, a massive defeat on the scoreboard. It was a massive defeat in terms of the season as well. So they couldn't have not won this game on Friday night. And fair play to them, they did, and they kept themselves in the mix.
I'll be honest, I predicted Longford to win, but I predicted a Longford 1-0. I didn't predict in the slightest 3-0. I think Cabinteely, like we said, have just fallen completely. A lot of people see they're under no pressure as well, because people say it's expected. Nobody expected them to be there, but they'd be bitterly disappointed considering where they are now. Like, I know everybody is saying, look, we knew they were going to fall off. It's just a matter of when. But I just think they'd be bitterly disappointed themselves, because I obviously know how Eddie Gormley works and know how Pat works. And, they'd be bitterly disappointed to be finishing so low on the table and, let's say, in the bottom places of the playoffs. Because considering they were top, and they were top for a long time then, and they, it's just kind of flicked the switch.
They'll be disappointed in how far they've fallen so quickly. It hasn't been a gradual fall this season. It has just spiraled, really, hasn't it? So that'll be the disappointing thing, and it'll be disappointing that they've lost 6-1 as well to the team that was bottom of the league. So as you say, Eric Gormley, Pat Devlin, when they look back on the season, they wouldn't have been expected to be top of the league. But at the same time, they'd be disappointed that they were top of the league and they didn't capitalise on it. And again, you go back to it being one of them seasons. If it was a proper season, would they have been able to keep the momentum that they'd built up over the first couple of weeks of the season? Again, it's all hypothetical, but who knows?
Yeah, look, and I think as well, just touching on it for a minute, I think we've seen, like, let's say you're going down to play, let's say, for example, Dundalk in that prime, and all of a sudden you say, right, I'll take a draw here. All of a sudden, Derry City are leading in Oriel Park against Dundalk, and you end up drawing 1-1, and you're going home saying, you know what, I'm disappointed. And I think that's the way, even though you would have took a draw before the game, I think you'd be disappointed after your performance, if you know what I'm trying to say. So I think that's the same with Cabinteely. I think Cabba would have bit your hand off to be where they are now at the start of the season, but considering they were top, they'd be so disappointed.
Oh, definitely. So they would.
Massive win.
I was surprised to even see them top of the league going under the lockdown period. And I think when the season restarted, they had a bit of a gap as well between themselves and second place as well, didn't they? So I kind of half expected them to kick on and maybe be up there come this part of the season. But as you say, Eddie and Pat probably wouldn't have expected to be top of the league, but the fact that they would make it even more disappointed that they couldn't maintain it.
Yeah, and look, speaking again, every game is big, but I think this was absolutely huge. Bray Wanderers 2, Shamrock Rovers B-0, and what a performance, what a result from Bray Wanderers.
Yeah, well, Bray had I wouldn't say advantage, but they were the last team they played in the weekend, so they knew going into their game what a win would do for them. The teams around Drogheda didn't play, but the other teams around them had all won, so the gap, their lead had been cut. But the thing that they knew that if they won, they had a 5-point lead. Yes, Drogheda will have that game in hand against Galway, but the form Galway are in, it's not a foregone conclusion. And I'm sure if you ask Gary Cronin, would he rather have a game in hand or would he have rather the points on the board? He'd rather have the points on the board. And I think that one on Sunday for me confirms that Bray is going to win the first division.
It's hard. I'd love to say the same, but you just don't know in this division. I think Bray are nailed on now to win it. I think they should win it. They have done fantastically well. That nobody expected them to be top of the table. I know Bray are a fantastic side and what they do, and like they're a great asset to the league. But at the same time, they've gone about that business quietly. Like nobody expected them to be where they are now. They're top of the fourth division. They're a couple of games away now from being back in the Premier Division. And look, I'm happy to say we might be going to now somehow cold nights in the Carlisle hopefully soon.
Yeah, I love the wee trips to Bray. And again, they're another team I don't mind. Apart from the weather being absolutely freezing when you're down there, whether it's spring, summer, winter, autumn,
the weather
it's
for me.
Freezing.
The weather doesn't do it for me. I just find when Pats end up playing Bray and the Carlisle, it's always a tough game. It's never straightforward.
Same with Derry.
I remember thinking back quickly. I know we're going off subject a little bit, but I remember thinking back to 2014 when we won the league. For some reason, I don't know how it was on Setanta Sports at the time, right?
Yeah.
They scheduled the game on a Thursday evening, right? Out in the Carlisle grounds. I remember it well. We were 1-0 up, and when I mean 1-0 up, we could have been 6 up. We're only short of getting the deck chairs out and the cigars. It was easy. All of a sudden, Izzy Akinadi comes on. Sorry, I tell a lie. I think we're 2-0 up, okay? Izzy Akinadi came on and made it 2-1. Or never forget it. Clarkey made an absolute worldie of a save, right? A 2-1. And we went down the other end and Johnny Russell stuck it away for us. But it was just, it's always a tough place to go no matter what. And look, I personally, I like Bray. I think they're a good asset to the league. They're good to have. And look, they've merited that place there. They've had their issues. They've had their problems with the owners and stuff like that. I think what's being done there and the work that O'Driscoll is putting in, and like they 500. I know a lot of them are kids, but they 500 season ticket holders.
That's I'm going for first division team. So
look, I know they're not. I know they're probably not paying for them all. And I know they're all kids and stuff like that. But that's how you start getting into the game. If you're going to Derry since you're a baby, I'm going to Pat since I'm a baby. And you know, it's what we love. But I just think, look, who knows how far Bray could actually go? I'm not trying to pump them up. I'm not trying to give them a big head. I'm not trying to put them off or anything. I'm just saying, what if? Because they have the community now. They have the love again. And you know, who knows how far that can actually go?
Like you have to give them credit because for a couple of years they were led to believe that there was finances there for them to be able to compete for Europe. When in actual fact the finances wasn't there, it was all preempted, and sometimes a team has to go down to come back up again. They build themselves. Where if they had tried to rebuild within the Premier Division, it may not have gone as well as it has gone. They've gone into First Division, their expectations lowered. They set themselves a plan. They restructured their club. They've now got a fan base in place within the community, and they're now reaping the benefits of it. They've, as you say, nobody tipped them to be anywhere near winning the league. They've creeped up. They just kept on the coattails of Drogheda, and Drogheda slipped up against Athlone, and Bray went and won their game, and they've now won against Shamrock Rovers, and now Drogheda are playing catch up with a couple of games to go, and you just can't do that. And fair credit to Bray. They're going to come up. If you think back to the couple of years ago when they had the baller with the owners and they were compared to North Korea, and it was just like a comedy series that was happening down there. And look, it's great to see that club back again. And hopefully, I'm hoping now, and no disrespect to Drogheda or Longford, I'm just hoping now that the Bray can get themselves back and back in the Premier Division. But at the same time, if any of them other clubs like say Longford, Drogheda, or whoever come up, they'll be a welcome addition to the Premier Division.
Oh, 100%. And look, we could see two. Who knows the way the playoffs are going? But it's exciting to see at least one of them coming up, and I'm really looking forward to it. Although I'm probably going to miss a trip to Cork. I'm not going to lie. But it's give or take. I think I'd rather a trip to Bray than a trip to Cork. So it's for you especially.
See, for us, it's only a couple of hours down the road. It's not the other end of Ireland, like. But we'll as Derry City fans, we'll miss Cork, because when Cork come up, there's a busload of them come up, and they stay up overnight. They come and they socialise with us, and that's no matter how many times Cork come to Derry, that all happens. So it'll be disappointing to see Cork go, and we're going to lose that, and God knows how we're going to lose that sort of friendship for. Hopefully it's not for too long. But in terms of travel, it's going to be beneficial to be going to Bray or Drogheda or maybe even Longford rather than going to Cork. So it's going to be an up and down rather than an overnight stay. And a lot of clubs will be in that position, like, really, won't they?
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much. Please like, share and comment on the video. And thanks very much, JP, for your time.
Cheers for having me, Cian.
No problem at all. Mind yourself.